you've been on the river guiding and managing camps. Could you tell us what are the most important elements of a successful fishing trip for the different guests that you've entertained on the Miramichi place?
Well, the most important thing, especially a new person that knows first time in the Miramichi, is to be able to hook his own fish. That was number one. And a lot of guys didn't realize that. They thought long as they got a fish, and most of the people that came, they didn't understand fishing, and they couldn't hardly maybe get a line up maybe 20, 25 feet. And for some reason, most of the guys, including myself, would let them fish around and not let them fish the hot spot. And then when you get to take a hold of the rod, you cast those 75 feet or 80 feet, and you hook the fish. He thought they was doing something great. So I learned a lesson by that, by a gentleman, and that he one fish that he hooked himself meant more if you hooked him 20.
Yeah.
And so after that, I tried my best, even the guy couldn't cast very well, just put him in an area where he could cast. Now the biggest problem the guide had is guiding an experienced fisherman. Because now, you may laugh at me, but a lot of these experienced fishermen can cast good, but they didn't really understand fishing on the Miramichi. And the pools are not large pools. You don't need to have fish 100-foot line. A 50, 60-foot line is perfect for swinging and hooking fish. But the first thing they do, get in a small pool, and the next thing you know, there's casting outside the pool.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting shortened down. And you tell them to shorten up the line, and they make a few casts, and then the first thing they want to show that they can cast as far as the guy, and it's out of the pool. Now I way soon got a woman than a man. Way soon, not. It don't make a difference if good looking or not. I soon got a woman because they pay attention.
Yes. Yeah.
And they listen, and they don't want to show off how far they cast, but they couldn't cast very far anyway. And I'm telling you, and they did well. They listened to you, and they hooked a lot of fish, and got a lot of nice salmon. Make sure the food is good. They like everything homemade. They don't want to see baker's bread on the table, or bought cookies, or bought pies and cake. They like everything being homemade, and don't be skippy with them. Make sure there's lots on the table.
Yeah.
Now, I had one gentleman, I used to bring hunting parties in the fall, and I need an extra guide. I asked him to guide for me, and then when he bring his parties in, he had next. I used to guide for him, and he said to me one day, "I can't understand it." I said, "You got guys coming back year after year after year." And he said, "I have a very few want to come back the second time. I wonder why? What's the trouble? What's the difference?" He said, "I got just as good hunting in my property as the place as you have, and the hills are no steeper." And I said, "You want to know the truth? I just tell you, one thing is, there's always running out of food on your table. I said, never make sure that they feed them good. And you feed them good, and good homemade food, they'll come back, even if fishing is hard or fishing or hunting." Now Clayton Stewart, I used to guide a lot of him in hunting party in the season in the fall, and he'd like to go along and do the cooking. So I said to Clayton, this trip, we going up Half Moon and coming down, I said, "Gonna have turkey." I said, "Clayton, for dinner tonight, Sunday night?" He said, "Oh yes." He said, "I got a big turkey to roast." And I said, "Don't bring any veg, buy any vegetables. I got everything you need, carrots, potatoes, and squash." And I said, "I got the driest squash I ever seen this year. No, it's just actually a little bit too dry." And the Clayton said, "That's great." So, "How do you cook your squash? Bake them?" I said, "No." I said, "I had a big crowd. I boil them. So anyway, we come in at dark. We come down to camp. Clayton had dinner all set. And I seen a couple pots on the stove. One was potatoes, and I said, "Clayton, what's in the other pot there?" He said, "That's squash." He said, "That's been on there for an hour. It's just as wet." So he said, "Not even thickening up." I took the laugh and I said, "You got to be kidding." "No," he said, "I do something wrong?" I said, "Yes, I got extra squash." brought extra squash, take that and dump it in your dump. And I said, I'll get the squash ready to boil. So I got squash all ready. Now I was cleaning, I said, put it on and you boil it. And you just boil it well and take a fork and just as soon as you can stick the fork in it, drain it. Oh, that's how you, yeah, that's how you don't, you cook it, this is like a soup. So he didn't know anything about cooking squash and the water, he baked them in the oven, but so when I'm in the next one, it turned out perfect, nice and dry, and he cooked it over. So after that, he was a great laugh for him.
Wow.
And you can always learn something. Now, I had a couple cook for me up at Dead Man Camp in the fall, old Mr. DeCenso, and he liked when he got a fish or two, he always liked a big fish chowder. So the lady doing the cooking, she was getting the chowder ready for him, and I said, what are you doing? And she said, you're breaking this fish all up in little pieces. She said, I'm chowdering it all up. And I said, no, I said, you don't do it that way. For him, I said, he's like some big, nice chunks. Cook your vegetables, and after it's all cooked, then you first break it apart and leave them in big chunks in the chowder. Well, so it wouldn't be a chowder then. And I said, well, that's what he calls a chowder. And she said, another old cook told me to take a whisk and swish it all around and break it all up. I said, well, that's good that way, maybe, but I said, he likes it. When he puts in his plate, he can see chunks of salmon in his chowder. So she put it on the table, and the old guy, he said, to the cook, he said, well, that's just perfect, just the way I like it. So a lot of good cooks make mistakes. Now, I'm not saying I'm a good cook, but I'm just saying a lot of good, I watch what the guys like. Yeah. And I would say 95 to 98% of the Americans that come, when you cook a steak for them, you don't cook it like the old timers on the Miramichi, burn it.
Yeah.
They like it just as rare. When you stick the fork in it, as long as they don't kick you, take it off. And that's where they want it.
Yeah.
And the roast.
Yeah.
But the cooks on the river here for years, different camps, they get a prime rib roast, and you cut right in the heart. You couldn't find a pink piece of meat anywhere. And the Americans didn't like it that way. They liked it when you took a slice off the really juice run right out of it.
Yeah.
Cook it just red, you call it. It takes a lot of cooks, good cooks, a long time to get that in their head, because they're used to cooking for people on the Miramichi and all of them like a brick,